Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Francis Manu. Welcome to our first webinar. I'm so excited. Um, Happy Friday, everyone. Wherever you are live with me and my good friend, Miss Garcia Lenachi. Um, so, we are live on Facebook, we're live on LinkedIn, and we are live on YouTube. What a great day. Right, so today's is our first of many coaching conversation. The aim of this program that we discuss, myself and Lenachi, is to do this on a monthly basis with different coaches, and also just give a content to coaches that required. Over the past few months, we've all experienced this pandemic, and I think it's time for us to give back to the community, give back to those that require the services. As a coach myself, I think it's more important to able to open up and share our experience with other people, our coaches that also will need us. So today we have my good friend, Cassia. So I give an overview with Cassia, but before I do that, I have to say, if we were in a room, I would do housekeeping. So I would say, on my left is a toilet, ladies, and my right is gentlemen. But of course, we are online, so we don't have that. However, what my always advice when it comes to online housekeeping is please mute your mic. And also, if you are sitting down, please sit properly on a nice posture chair. You don't want to hurt your back. You want to be able to be more comfortable of your background. If you have children playing around, please ask them to join. It's important for them to learn about what is happening and learn from also other people. So bring your family. Afternoon tea is still dinner time. Bring them together to one table and enjoy our 1 hour conversation. So housekeeping is done. Next agenda, I want to introduce my good friend. You can see her smiling all the way from Cambridge. So who is Miss Cassia? So we met in Cambridge last year when we enrolled to coaching program. When we met the first day, we clicked because what reason? I clicked all my students, my colleagues, we all clicked together. We all had a good time, but we just have something in common because over the past few years, I've worked with Chinese people, Chinese community, helping them with different services, education, speaking, and also she also teaches children from China. So that kind of connection was there, and I thought that's powerful. So here we are. She's been my first guest on our webinar. So Cassia lives in Cambridge. She's a lecturer in Cambridge, a coach. She's married with 2 teenagers. Am I right?
That's correct.
2 teenagers. She was she was born in Poland. So again, my dear.
I've just said 1 teenager, but I also consider that's enough for now. I think 1 is better than 2.
Agreed. Born and raised in Poland, lived in Germany for 5 years and moved to UK over the past 15 years. As I said before, she's also a lecturer at Cambridge and also a coach. And of course, we just leave the rest for her to give us overview of who she is and her background, and then take it from there. So over to you, Cassia.
Thank you, Eric. Well, what can I say? I really wanted to express my gratitude. It's a real privilege to be your guest, and also, just wanted to say hello to everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. That's the thing about online. We don't really know where people are. So what can I add to your short introductions? I was indeed born in Poland. I grew up in Poland. And when I was about 19, I decided I wanted to leave. I wanted adventure. So I the neighboring country happened to be Germany, and I also happened to speak German, and I was into languages, so that was my decision. It was straightforward. I'm going to go to Germany. So it was still, within a 2-hour drive from my hometown. And I was fluent in German, and yet, there are some things that were so different that I definitely experienced culture shock there. But studying languages and culture, I was able to provide some answers. So, culture and language has always been my thing, if you like. So I got my first job there in Germany, spent 5 years of my life there, and then moved to the UK about 15 years ago now, where I had my beautiful children. And I get culture shocked at home every day because my children are very English. Both myself and my husband are Polish, so I'm never polite enough for my children. I'm the strict Polish mother, but it's fine. I can live with it. So that's one of my hats that I wear. I've got 2 other professional hats. So with my academic hat, I am indeed a lecturer at Cambridge, where I lecture on intercultural communication. And I support students, undergraduate and postgraduate students and staff in communicating across cultures. Cambridge is such a diverse place. And of course, everyone speaks English, but it's not enough to get on. So that's what I do. And I also run my own consultancy where I support corporate clients, individuals and organizations, through training and group coaching. So I support companies that are merging, that have diverse teams to collaborate, to communicate more effectively. And I support clients one-to-one as well. Mostly clients who move to the UK or perhaps relocate from the UK to Eastern or Central Europe. So yeah, I would say that my clients are mostly international students and international business people.
Excellent. Right. So before we jump into our first question, let me bring this in more scope of the program today. So this is interactive. Whenever I do public speaking on stage, I like engaging my audience. So I said to Castor that this is interactive. So those on Facebook, please have your comments. Any Q&A, the chat is open. YouTube, LinkedIn, please, any questions, let us know. Before we start, I have a question, and if you are on Facebook or on LinkedIn, whatever you are, I'm going to open the chat, and then I'm going to ask a question. If you could respond or let us know what is happening. So the first question is, who is us today? So I'm going to type, and then you could answer or tell us who you are and where you're calling from. So who with us today? And where you're calling from, and where you are, or just yeah. So the chat box is open. So just who is with us today? Where you are, the States, Africa, America. Let us know, and then we take it from there. Please say your name first, and then we will see how it goes. Right. So, Kostya, I've got this question. How are we doing when it comes to online coaching? Communication. So today's topic, as I said over the past week, is how coaching can improve online communication skills. So my first question is, how does video conferencing affect communication in general?
As we all know, everything is done online. Not only doctor appointments and and chatting to our families. It's business meetings, job interviews. Cambridge has gone online for the entire year. We will be teaching online. And we've entered this world without much preparation, and everyone knows how to use FaceTime or WeChat or WhatsApp or video calling. So that's what we did. We just started doing it for work. And guess what? We discovered that it's not quite the same. online communication for work is not taking the face-to-face experience through, and putting it through the channel, the channel of a video conferencing, and of course it is about your background and the equipment, and we all trying to look and sound professional, but it's much more, I think, and I'm sure you've heard about the Zoom fatigue, Eric.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, what is Zoom fatigue?
Yeah, it's just tiredness. It's just exhaustion from replacing face to face with online. We are seeing people's heads only. When we're lucky, we see their arms as well. Sometimes I talk to people where you can only see their eyes when they speak. It's not very helpful. So you're missing out on all the non-verbal communication, and our brain is trying to make up for the missing cues. So our brain is working so hard to fill in those gaps. So it's the visual. I'm very lucky. I can see you really well today, and you look very professionally. But with some people, they really don't care about the light. They sit against the window. It's very hard to talk to somebody for an hour when you can't see their face.
Yeah.
So it's the sound. We can watch Netflix series for hours without feeling inspired. But 1 hour of Zoom and we are exhausted. Why? Well, because the sound has not been. It hasn't been edited. It's still crude to our ears. So again, it's the visual, it's the sound that our brain is trying to work with, and it's using up a lot of energy. Another thing is having a lot of meetings, perhaps even back to back. So you're already tired from one meeting, and you have another one in 5 minutes. So all that that contributes to the Zoom fatigue, and I guess another thing is that it's just very stressful because you suddenly watching yourself. It's like being on television, and everyone is busy. And we have this stage effect of Zoom. It becomes public speaking suddenly.
Yeah.
So it's more stressful. Public speaking, Eric. I mean, 10 minutes of public speaking on the stage, and it feels like a minute. And also,
Tell me about.
when you come down the stage, you feel exhausted. So we're doing precisely that, without any preparation.
So we have this during our program last back in May. Our coaching program in Cambridge. Tell me your experience. I mean, we all experience, all of us experience the shock of from classroom to online. Because I had experienced so tough because I've got the 2 kids screaming behind and then back straight to lectures. How was your experience on that time?
Yeah, it was interesting for all of us, and I'm not sure if you remember, Eric, but when we started the course, we would exchange our views on coaching and how would we like to coach. And because I used to coach online before the pandemic, I was all about online because I thought, it's green, you don't have to travel, and being an international coach, of course, it opens doors and you can work. And some of us felt a bit strange about online and thought that face-to-face is so much better because you're missing out. And guess what? 5 months later, pretty much all of our peers are coaching online. And they're doing it successfully. So what is it? What is it that you have to get right? But with the course, you are right. We did 2 face-to-face weeks in my beautiful city. And the last week was online, and it can be done. It's very different, and I'm wondering, Eric, if the entire course was online, would we ever get close? Because it was coffee breaks. It was the coffee breaks. It was the walks in the park. The informal. That was the informal chit chat, the laughs we had during the breaks. And sadly, this is something that is difficult to replace online.
So going forward, which comes to my next question. So we have this culture shock when it comes to online communication. I'm from Ghana. I've been in UK for over 20 years now, almost 20 years now. And of course, I was experienced what you experienced, culture shock from Poland to Germany and then to UK. Now we are in this different territory. How does online communication across culture affect us? How can we improve on that?
Well, different culture backgrounds affect the way we communicate. It's about the being maybe more direct in your communication, especially business communication. How much small talk do you need? Being on time, perhaps. It's about the dress code. So forget online for a moment. Just think about the things that we have to cope with face to face. Yeah. So we have the different management styles, the very different teaching styles. At Cambridge, this is so evident that the role of a lecturer in different countries, such as China, perhaps, is different, and often, I feel that Western students challenge me much more often, and they like brainstorming. They like to be put on the spot, perhaps. Or I wouldn't say they like it, but that's what we do. They are used to it. Whereas we definitely see that Chinese students don't interact with the teachers the same way, and we see there's more hierarchy. But it's the same in Poland. There's more hierarchy at Polish universities. So all that we can see face to face. So what usually helps people to overcome those culture differences that can sometimes affect the way we perceive somebody is the informal, is the chit chat, is the coffees, it's the getting to know the person and not, it's not the nationality, it's that one person. So what happens online is that we lose this opportunity for small talk chit chat, and everything becomes somehow more transactional. And so I believe that those culture differences can be even more exaggerated online.
With regards to that, let's say it's your accent. You've got different. I mean, I have accent. I've been here for almost 20 years. I still have my accent, which is people find it so sweet that I've just it's nice. We all have accents, wherever you are, Chinese, American. We all have accents.
Yeah.
How do you, as a coach and coachee, how do we able to break that barrier and also say able to understand someone when they say something that we don't understand, or we're coaching someone and then there's a culture difference when it comes to accent? How do you help on that? What is your intake on that?
Well, it's interesting. Some of the prospective clients I talked to, some of the international clients, we had a chemistry session, and they would say that they would actually prefer to be coached in their mother tongue. So for some, they actually think that they would get more out of the coaching. But some, especially those who want to, pursue the academic career, or perhaps their business career internationally, they actually appreciate being coached in English. Of course, language can be a barrier, and we have to be looking at a high level of English in order to understand each other well. But I think language, coaching is somewhere where you feel safe. And I think this is where you take time to understand each other, and you shouldn't be afraid of trying to, ask different ways. It's an interesting thing how languages, affect the way we think. And sometimes I discover with my clients that, I'll give you an example. So I was working with this manager from Germany, and he was talking about responsibility and accountability, and he was getting frustrated that the Polish managers were not showing a lot of the accountability. And then we discovered that there is no translation for accountability in Polish. There's only responsibility. So this is a linguistic thing. And it took us a little while to figure it out. But once we discovered it, it made so much sense. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
So should we say that there's can also be a barrier between the coach and the coachee because there's different translation of the content? Am I right to say that?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Now, over the past few months, we also been online. We work from home, and then after you work from home, you then do your online coaching with the clients. What has been your turning point on this online communication? How can we improve ourselves when it comes to talking, when it comes to able to prioritize ourselves? Because this is one of the key challenges for coaches. I finished my work 9 to 5. I've got a coach or a session with a coach, and I've got the children on my background, need to do feeding, need to do homework, I need to do bedtime. How do we diversify ourselves as a coach or coachee to able to have this time?
Well, that's a very good point, Eric. And you know that as coaches, we are often encouraged to, when working with a client face to face, we are encouraged to take them out from their office, to make coaching special, make it special time, and let them disconnect. You know, because when you're working with a client in their office, when they can see all the background, hear all the background noise, that the phone is ringing, it's very difficult for them to detach themselves from it. And we both know, people need to be relaxed and they kind of switch off. And since we're all working from home, as you said, it's difficult for the client to forget about work if they meet their family, talk to their teams and professors, and to their coach from their office. It's very difficult. They can probably move to the kitchen, but the kitchen is maybe full of children, as you said. And it's the same challenge for the coach. It's the same challenge for me. I have 2 children, and they've only started school. But the summer has been challenging, so you really have to plan for it.
Okay.
When I went this morning, I met my client 8:30 in the morning, and he's just had another meeting. He hadn't had any break before my session, so I asked him to get up, grab a coffee, and we took some deep breaths together, just to kind of just to draw a line and start a new conversation. But it's very important, and it's a challenge. It is a challenge. Perhaps it's the question of, if you have the luxury of maybe moving and going on the sofa, finding a spot that is for coaching and not necessarily your desk. But most of us have the setup.
Everyone, so the chat box is to open. Please, any question you have for Cassia, please let us know. We are still waiting for people to come up with their questions. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on YouTube. So any questions, please shoot to us. Now, I've got another question. One is, how can coaching help online communication? Now, we both coaches, also both coachee, because we both have our own coaches that coach us to able to back to where we are, and also if there's any issue with the client, how they can help us. We also have our mentors and also have our supervisors. Now the question is that now we're all in the same boat. Either being a coachee or coach, how can we help when it comes to managing our timing? So we discussed about managing your time on a workload. Now, how do you managing this on an online basis? Because these days we order food from online, everything comes online. So how do you, as a coachee, able to use this platform online to able to communicate with other people? What is your intake on that?
Well, again, I believe it's a great opportunity. I mean, you have you're not restricted to the coaches from your area. You can work with pretty much everyone in the world. You just have to agree on the time zone. Work with the time zones. It saves on traveling time. I believe it's a great opportunity, and if done properly, I mean, it is just as good as a face-to-face experience, in my opinion.
So back to during the pandemic, during the lockdown, we all have this experience with mental strength. And I'm coming back to psychological aspect. As a coach, we've all been lecturers, and we experienced that. How do we maintain that psychological aspect, the mental strength this time? Because we all have same issue. I've got 2 kids, I've got 6 and 4, very demanding. I mean, you've got older kids, so you're more like relaxed. But how do we able to maintain that mental strength as a coaches or coachee on this climate?
I mean, the key to the 2 key words are, of course, resilience and coping. And some people feel that their resilience is much higher than other people's resilience. I think it's important to become more self-aware. Where am I with my resilience? Am I really struggling? But some people are simply not struggling. In fact, I know people who got excited, not about the pandemic, but they got excited about everything going online and the new opportunities. So I think it would have to be you would have to start assessing. And actually, there are tools, coaching tools, that can measure your resilience, which is being able to bounce back when something goes wrong, and coping as well. So I think once you know where you are, and if you discover that there's something about the resilience and coping that you need to put slightly more energy, then you have to discover what is it that triggers your lower energy. For example, for myself, I discovered very early in the pandemic that I had to reduce the amount of time I would spend on reading the news. And that had to be, a very conscious decision, just to say only 10 minutes and a specific time of the day. So identify where you are. Do you need support? And then what is it that you should or shouldn't be doing?
Yeah.
And in many ways, so I guess, working with people who have to adapt to different styles and cultures, this is also, culture shock. When you think about it, shock is a strong word, really. This requires resilience and coping. So what I'm finding at the moment is that the experience I have from working, helping people to come closer, and almost combat culture shock, that is the same experience applies to the pandemic, because both are stressful, and you need resilience and coping. So I would say you need assessment, perhaps use a psychometric tool, and then there are certain qualities that you can measure using psychometric tools. And in my field of work, intercultural communication competence is the resilience and coping. They are very high. It's very important. So that's a very, very important point. If somebody, doesn't cope well, then that's the priority.
I had a question from one of our students from China. As nice is around 11 p.m., 11 midnight in China, but still got people online watching via YouTube. So the question was students. Now all the Cambridge program is now going online, and most of the students, those in UCL, LSE, are all still online, and they are back in China, and of course they are being given information from UK to China. I want to touch and go a bit deeper, delve into the resilience, because this is powerful and also a time that is required. Mm-hmm. You are a lecturer. You lecture students in Cambridge. You expertise on that aspect. And you mentioned the application, the tools to measure that resilience. How deeper, or how can we able to, as a student, have this to use that during this time that they are in China? They can't come back to UK because of the airport being closed, but they're being given assignments or coursework. How resilient would they need? What is your intake as a lecturer?
To be honest with you, Eric, I'm not sure how it works with all the international students. I think what we're trying to do is to get everyone in. So students will come, those who can, and they will stay in the colleges, but they will be able to socialize in bubbles. But the lectures and big group teaching will be happening online. But of course, it's very likely that some students will be stuck in their home countries. I think what we're seeing anyway with many Chinese students is they integrate best in the UK through rowing, through sports, working on the projects with other students. We see that many Chinese students, they find it easier to just, to socialize with other Chinese students.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I found it much easier to socialize with Polish students when I was in Dresden, with Polish and international students. So I guess it's easier to socialize and stick to your own people, if you like, because it requires less resilience, because you experience less culture shock. And so it's almost, because it's really coming out of your comfort zone. It's very stressful. And you've got maybe not the language barrier. My Chinese students in Cambridge speak excellent English, better than myself. But they often say that, I understand academic English, but I don't know the slang. They feel uncomfortable. I guess what I'm trying to say, to answer your question, if teaching is happening online and the contact between the students will be restricted, I think it will have a bigger impact on resilience, for sure. Because just like with our course, Eric, the first weeks of our coaching course, we had the laughs, we had the coffee breaks, we would walk in the park. Some of us went to the pub at night. If you haven't got all that, you just have the computer, the Zoom fatigue, and the stress of studying in a different way. So I think there's definitely a lot to be done there.
Hi everyone, we are halfway through our first coaching webinar. You guys have been quiet, maybe because it's our first time, but I will accept that. So, but we are still on live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So with me is Cassia from Cambridge, lives and works in Cambridge, a lecturer, have 2 children, married. So today's topic, those if you just join us, is about how can coaching improve online communication skills. Now, let's use the word deaf, which I learned from when I was doing the coaching program. I love that term because brave but good deaf, which I love that. I love very much. Now, there's so many aspects when it comes to online coaching with coaches or with a mentor or with supervisor. How about our background, the way we sit, the how do we position that? Because that's another aspect that some of us faces. I mean, I give an example. My wife will say this. When we started the first day on online coaching in Cambridge, I was using our bedroom. And you could see the background was not good. I had everything, and I thought, I need to change it. And I had to come to different room. Of course, I'm on different room, which is course nice background, plain, clean. How about those that don't have that luxury? They don't have that environment. But they looking for a coach to help them achieve something that they want. How do you say about that? Because that's powerful, but that's important for any of us when it comes to the environment, equipment, everything.
Well, it's a very important point, and again, if you were coaching face to face, you would choose a venue that is appropriate, that is attractive, and research suggests that actually beautiful places trigger creativity. So it's important. Preferred would be a window where you can see a bit of nature and so on and so forth. This is all gone. So I think what we need to think about is lack of distraction, and let's start before we look at the background. I'm going to talk about what I can see now. I can see you and myself. I can see the chat. I can see all my apps. If I turned off my notifications, but obviously if I was receiving emails now, that would be distraction. Even if you ignore them, the moment you notice something, you already stopped listening. Yeah, you already lost for a few seconds, and Eric, those few seconds can be very important. So I think as a coach, I would definitely talk to the coachee and the importance of maybe having a plain background and maybe trying to have, turn everything off. This thing definitely has to be put away. I know it's sometimes hard, but it's just to avoid distraction. So now, when I know I'm not going to be distracted, then I have to think about the person I'm talking to. So your background today is very plain. So I'm not distracted, and there is a lot to be said about the background. And some people have books, some people have family pictures, and I'm often asked, what's the best background? I really don't know what's the best background, but when you talk to somebody and you notice things in their background, you get distracted. So you can answer yourself, because, if I'm seeing somebody's family pictures, which are beautiful, in a coaching conversation, you don't want to be distracted. So if you can, I think a plain background is the best. And again, this is a luxury. Not everyone has a plain wall. So we have to work with what we have. I have one interesting one for you, Eric. You will like it. So on the wall you can't see right now, I have a picture of a black cat. My daughter painted it for me. And so one of my coaching clients, right in the middle of the session, said to me, I'm sorry, I think black cats bring bad luck. And for that client, this picture was, in the way.
Yeah.
So I was very conscious about it. So for next time, I removed it. And I had one client, and you will also like that. And I tried to move my camera. I have this plant here. One client told me that they don't like this plant. So I actually listened. And I could say, "Oh, that's silly. That's your problem." But I wouldn't want to do that. So it's about what we notice, what is distraction, and trying to work with what we have and trying to make the best out of it.
So, going a bit deeper onto that aspect, do we have to spend to get these resources? Or what do we do? Because as we all, not everyone. I remember, I'm gonna mention his name. He might be watching. During our coaching program, he was on his bed. Remember, on his bed the whole time, which was fun. I loved it. What do you do on this? Because we both laugh because we both said he was on his bed all that up. So I'm sure he's watching on YouTube anyway. So what do you do on this situation? Because you don't want to go on bed. We're being coached.
Well, ultimately is where the client feels comfortable. I think with our friend, he was in the middle of buying new furniture, and because of the pandemic, I think the deliveries were on his bed. I sometimes work with students who actually share the room with somebody. And you can clearly see that there's somebody in the background working, on their computer, which is fine. But then you have to be careful about what is this person doing? I think managing expectations is important. I think talking, openly about what's the best environment would be the best way forward. But of course, if there are limitations and somebody, can't change their surroundings, then that's a fair point. I mean, I didn't get, I actually got a microphone, but because I have a fairly new computer, I tested and I asked some people, do you hear any difference? And they said, I don't really. So I stopped using the microphone. So I think we should try to do what we can to improve the quality. I've also heard, Eric, which is interesting, that people who are extremely well equipped and they looked extremely professional, almost like a movie star, that it's got the reverse effect that people almost feel intimidated. So I'm keeping it, I'm keeping it basic.
But that often our friend using his bed was something that I think was unique. That was my best bit of the pandemic. So moving to a bit deeper, we have 20 minutes left because I'm strict with my timing. Before we do that, I've got more questions. It looks like no one else is commenting. Everyone is quiet, which is acceptable because the first time you're all nervous. How should I ask? You haven't asked what questions. Every question is a good question, just let you know. So do not be intimidated or be afraid or fear that I will ask a question that is not relevant. Every question is a good question. So I've got another good chat on the queue on our chat button. What do you use video meeting for in terms of international calls? So this is a question from me to our audience. Let me repeat again. What do you use video meeting for in terms of international calls? Um, if you have any ideas, how do you use it, please, we have the chat button open and we are still live on YouTube, Skype, actually YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So we're on Skype, just let you know. Right, so moving a bit deeper, we have 20 minutes left. I'm trying to be on time. Clients. So we have coaches. We both coaches. We both have supervisors. How do client benefit from a session when it comes to online coaching?
Well, okay. So what we do normally with the clients is we use a tool that assesses their certain qualities that research suggests are very important qualities when it comes to intercultural communication. In fact, many of those qualities are important for any communication. But I've already talked about resilience and coping.
Mm-hmm.
These are key qualities that can be measured. You can see how you score on those, where your energy goes. There are other competencies or qualities. So another one is openness. Openness is to do with welcoming strangers, for example. Mm-hmm. And just curiosity, sort of spirit of adventure. If some of my clients want to study in the UK because they really want the adventure. There's something else, and they find it slightly easier to bounce back when a culture shock happens. And those who choose to do it because for different reasons, not necessarily adventure, could struggle a bit more. I work with both types, and as long as we identify what's lacking, we can make them work on a specific action plan. So if I'm not that curious, what can I do to become a bit more curious, and what is the value of that curiosity? So we look at certain qualities: openness, resilience, and coping. We look at listening skills. Very important. Clarity of communication. Mm-hmm. Clarity of communication is about, sometimes foreigners use English that is more sophisticated than native speakers. You know that.
Agreed.
And so often you have to almost take a step back and use a language that is more accessible. So that's clarity of communication. Then we have things like ability to influence people. There is a different way of presenting information. My Chinese students, when they present, when they prepare a presentation for their course, or business people who have to come and pitch ideas, perhaps they have a different way of presenting. There's a different dynamics. That in the UK it's all about visuals, throwing in jokes, being interactive, a lot of eye contact. So there's influencing. There's also flexibility. We can measure how flexible people are. Do I have a range of styles? So can I kind of adapt to my audience? Mm-hmm. That's another quality. And so once you have to adapt to your audience, of course you have to know what is it that you need to adapt to. So some of it is just cultural knowledge. Yeah, so if you were moving to the UK to study, you would probably need to know a little bit more about, how does the learning and the socializing happen here. So you can you can measure your energy in those different areas, and then based on your scores, you can choose. Well, first of all, you can see what are your strengths and what is going to support you. And then if you see that something could be a slightly higher score, you can choose that area of personal development to work on with a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So you almost end up with your profile, and then you can choose what to work on. And this is about soft skills, interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
And we often think, oh, this is how I am, I can't change. And coaching is the place where you go to work on the interpersonal skills.
Agreed. And I mean, add up to that, I think we all experienced during this time that we have to able to accept the environment we are in. Because as a coach, as a coachee myself, as I do have my coach who coach me every month to see my progress, she uses a chart to identify where are my weakness, what have been the lacking with my coaches. Am I asking them the right question? Am I listening to them? Am I giving them a feedback or asking a feedback on my coaching session? I think these are something that, as a coach, we all have to embrace, because as a coach, you have that active listening attitude. You have that skills of awareness about the environment of the coach, and also having the attentive that you're able to let them talk rather than you talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the most important when it comes to that. We've got 15 minutes left, so I've got another questions. I'm dipping into a different area. We talk about online communication, improve skills. These days, there's so much information out there online, on LinkedIn. People are bombarding you with different aspects of sales and sales and sales. What is the best strategy as a coachee or as a coach for us to use to improve our communication? It's about learning about communication skills. What's the best strategy? What is your intake on that? What do we do?
As you said, there's a lot of noise out there. It is about communication because you communicate with your, with your profile picture. You communicate with your background. I don't know what I'm communicating with my dress. Somebody said it looks like coronavirus. One of my clients said that. So you see, everything sends a message. I think it's very important, to remember, yes, we all want to stand out. But it's so important to stay true to yourself. In all this madness, I think staying true to yourself, and I guess what it takes is confidence, and knowing yourself. So I think if there's, I think the biggest value in coaching is getting to know yourself better. In fact, I'm just looking at some of the feedback I got from my coaching clients. Where I asked them, what was the biggest takeaway for you?
Mm-hmm.
And some of them said, I found that there is no perfect personality, and it made me feel more comfortable with who I am. And some say that they could apply some specific changes in certain situations. They got more comfortable with eye contact, because many, especially many Chinese students notice it's different. Lack of eye contact here can be lack of respect.
Yeah.
But it's the same. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Exactly. So some, by talking about it, people say my self-esteem has increased and they feel more confident. So if I'm still answering your question, Eric, I think that yes, it is loud out there, and things have to be professional to a certain extent. You have to think about your background, you have to think about your audience, you have to think about your English, but you also have to be yourself. And coaching can help you, discover who you are, what's important, what are your biggest strengths, how to play at your strengths, how can your strengths support you in whatever goal you have, being an academic career or perhaps an interview. So that's my take on it.
Okay, good question. I think that's a very good answer to that. We've got 10 minutes, everyone. The chat has been quiet, which I can't understand because it's the first of many to come. But do not worry, we will have this recorded and then we can have it to you. I think we might have lost Cassia, so please bear with me to bring her back online. As you know, when you're online, these are one of the issues that you do face. Technology can happen all the time, and here we have her once again.
I am back.
Yes. And this is one of the best online because, as I said before, my intro, online, anything could happen. And we just experience that, which is great because that gives you that's why we are online, anything can happen. And that is what, as a coach, you got to be aware that nothing is perfect. And I think it's great to experience this now. Before we got 8 minutes, Cassia, do you want us to talk about your expertise when it comes to coaches? Who are your clientele? You've mentioned on your intro. What about coaching do you do? Career coaching, business? Do you want to give us more info, please?
I guess my coaching is career and business, but it's really specifically for international clients. So I'm coaching many PhD students from China, for example. We work on a one-to-one basis. And for the PhD students or students in general, it's often about how do I fit in, how to integrate. I'm struggling with this aspect of communication in the UK. So some of it is very specific. For example, I don't see the value in small talk, and I don't know, or maybe I want to do small talk, but I don't know how. Some people say, I want to contribute to discussions, but by the time I want to say something, the conversation moves on to a new topic. They notice that the way people communicate is different. Socializing, but it's also about their academic career, communicating with their supervisors, also supervisors back in China. Sometimes they feel that, after spending some years in the UK, they experience culture shock communicating back with China because they have changed.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's academic clients, right? With my corporate clients, very often I work with Chinese managers moving to Europe, not necessarily UK. I mean, it's not really about that specific culture, but it's more about being, acknowledging that culture differences affect the way we interact with others. So it could be international managers, Chinese managers moving to Europe, maybe coming to Europe for a year or two, or maybe moving permanently. But also, I actually work with Chinese companies based in the UK, employing British people, or maybe diverse with diverse employees, and they have to manage this culture diversity the way people get on. So I would say career, sort of academic performance, and business in the light of international intercultural.
So before we go, we've got 5 minutes. Let me just again brief everybody the aim of this program. This is first of many to come, and our objectives is to do a monthly with different coaches. And then on the 6th month, we will then do a 3 or 5 days long day program, inviting different coaches as a webinar to give more content. This is a free, we're not sales. Is we believe that as a coaches, and having that experience from Cambridge, we want to give back to community. So we believe that sharing knowledge is most important than selling, which is what other people do. So our aim is to share knowledge to those that require it. And today it has been great to have Cassia talk about so many aspects when it comes to online communication. We've discussed about the culture shock, talk about cultural awareness, our background, our experience, having a resilient, which is most important, and understanding the way we can communicate with our peers on different accent. Of course, after accent, just I've been here for 20 years, I still have accents. I remember I went to a place last week and someone said, "Are you French? Do you speak French?" I must speak French before. Okay, that's something that you get all the time because you still have the accent, which is beautiful. I love it anyway. Right, so we've got 4 minutes, and I'm going to close it. We do have someone comments. Let me see the comments. Oh, we have someone from London, New York. So of course, I didn't see your comment. Apologies for that. Please forgive me. I should have looked through my dashboard. That is what we call it, online communication. Anything can happen. So we have 2 minutes left. So as I was saying, this will be monthly program, and then the 6th month we do 3 to 4 days program with different coaches. And today we have my good friend Cassia. That when we met Cambridge, it was just clicked because we have something in common. Of course, I'm still connected with all my cohort students, which is amazing. We have a group WhatsApp that we communicate with amazing students, one of the best I've ever studied with, and also, of course, the professors that we met. With the further ado, I'm going to say thank you to my good friend Cassia, all the way from Cambridge, lives and works in Cambridge. She is married. With 2 teenagers. I think that's more coming. No more coming.
No, but I've just got a kitten.
Got kitten, good. That's it. Right. So as I said, this is interactive. That will be interactive. We're not just having one person talking because we want to make it more open, more user friendly, more accessible. We want to have a fun, want to laugh, we want to make jokes. We want you to, again, but most important, take something out of this. What are you benefiting? What has you learned today? What have you gained out of today? So we've got 2 minutes for the chats. If you can respond, what have you gained today? What have you learned today? What did you take out of this program? The chat is still open before I say goodbye to my colleague and my good friend Cassia. If you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, please let us know. Before we go, Cassia, how do someone reach out to you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. So always check my LinkedIn. I mean,
do you want to share your LinkedIn with us on a chat button, because this is recorded and I can send it to those that, if it's your LinkedIn name or same name as you have,
yeah,
on the
it's
chat
my
button there, that would be
Cassia Labuka. I've just typed it in the chat.
excellent.
You could also find me on Facebook. I check my LinkedIn every day and occasionally Facebook. So that's a cultural thing, you know. So I use LinkedIn for work, or you can always contact Eric and he will put us in touch.
Excellent. Right. So we have 1 minute and say thank you once again. Cassia, it's been a pleasure having you my first webinar, and I'm so pleased to have you. You've been great, and it's good to have you, and looking forward to having you again in the next few weeks and months and years to come. Everyone, we are going off screen. Please reach out to us if you know how to find me. You can find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, and this is recorded, and I'll send a copy to everybody. Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend ahead. Stay blessed.